Thursday. This past week, I f***ed up. A lot, actually. My biggest mistake? Making Greg Heffley suspicious of my whole plan. No, seriously, f*** Greg. He used to be so gullible and naive, believing all the bullshit I told the guys at lunch, no matter how ridiculous it sounded. Guess what? Someone discovered flying hippos in Uganda. It's true, you know. And now, he probably sees me as some creep who spends all his spare time jacking off to yogurt porn and reading girls' books. Really though, I hope he dies a slow and painful death, and his idiotic friend Rowley can go with him. That twit has the mental age of a 6-year-old. Speaking of which, I bet Rowley's so mentally retarded that he wouldn't even notice if I gave him some of my yogurt. This should end well. Anything else? Well, my parents' return will be delayed by at least a few days because they accidentally boarded a plane bound for Plainview, Australia. Ah well, gives me more time to enact my plan. Ah yes, looks like Irina uploaded a new video. Well, I gotta go watch this. Just hope Greg doesn't find this new diary like he did the old one. Note to self, find new place to hide porn stash. Must do ASAP. Remember, buy new copies of books 4, 6, 7, and 10, or find way to steal them off Greg Heffley. Speaking of mistakes I made, I really should have gotten some help from less conspicuous people. I mean, Dennis, Eric, and the others were great help, but they really don't have a good reputation at school. And I'm guessing that as soon as Greg noticed me hanging out with them, he got suspicious. Bad? Good. Speaking of which, I wonder if Alex Aruda is willing to help me. I mean, he doesn't like Greg either, right? At least I think he doesn't. And another thing, I can't nap a whole bunch of students at once. Greg noticed that last time, and if anything, I don't want him to notice that anyone's gone missing. Oh, and I need to find somewhere else to use as a headquarters. Greg and his cronies know where I live, and I can't keep anything important here. Monday. Albert came back to school today, and I wasn't really looking forward to seeing him again. Actually, I'd completely forgotten about him until now, though that was mainly due to the fact that I saw Fregley and Ruby Bird kissing in front of the lockers. To be honest, I'm surprised that Fregley managed to get a girlfriend before me, though I guess it's hardly surprising that he and Ruby got together, since they were practically made for each other. Anyways, I was so preoccupied wondering how Fregley and Ruby became a couple in the same time it took me and Holly to go from distant acquaintances to just friends, that I totally forgot about Albert until he showed up at lunch. Albert was doing the same thing he always did at lunch, telling the other guy some random crap he found on some sketchy looking website. Guess what? I have scientific proof that Michael Jackson was castrated. I wasn't even paying attention to what he was saying. In fact, I only looked up when Bryce Anderson spoke up. Whoa, Albert Sandy? You're not eating any yogurt. Unsurprisingly, Albert didn't find this funny. Oh yeah, I forgot. The school banned yogurt last month. Suck a dick, Bryce. I didn't see Albert or Bryce for the rest of the day, so I wonder if this is going anywhere. Sadly, before I had the chance to see where Albert was going, Dennis arrived in his van. If anything, this only shows that Albert's up to something. I mean, he never hung out with Dennis until he put that yogurt plan into action, so he's clearly doing something illegal. Whatever it is, it probably involves Bryce, given Albert's earlier reaction, so we followed him home. Unfortunately, once Bryce got home, he almost immediately went upstairs. We couldn't find a ladder or anything that would give us an elevated vantage point, so we bailed out. By then, Bryce hadn't come down for at least an hour, so I do wonder if Albert decided to spare him. Tuesday. I was starting to think that Albert left Bryce alone, until I saw them run into each other in the hall. Hello, Albert, my friend. What can I do to brighten your day? I've never seen Bryce talk to Albert like Albert's his boss or something. Come to think of it, I'm not sure if Bryce would be willing to bow down to anyone, so something's definitely up. Looks like I'm gonna have to keep an eye on anybody who tries to insult or talk back to Albert. I saw Albert talking to Bailey Anthony before lunch, and he was acting really strange. Would you like a hug? In your dreams, you yogurt fetishist. I've never known Albert as the kind of person to give out hugs, but I heard from Holly that Bailey broke up with her boyfriend after he tried to induce her to yogurt wrestling. So I guess Albert tried to use this as an opportunity to flirt with Bailey, despite everyone knowing that he started the yogurt joke. In other news, Bryce has been acting even more annoying than usual, mainly because him and his cronies are constantly praising Albert, Albert's the best, right guys? Yeah, Albert rocks. All hail Albert. I'm pretty sure that Bryce's recent behavior has something to do with Albert and his goons. So after school, we ended up going back to Albert's. For some reason, Albert's front door was unlocked. I thought he forgot to lock it, but he hadn't turned on the alarm either, making me wonder if all of this was done on purpose. The Sandy's house was a total mess. Albert and his goons must have spent their entire suspension partying because the entire house was trashed. We found loads of questionable stuff that presumably belonged to Albert, but nothing that seemed to have anything to do with his plan. Having spent some time in Albert's house, I began to notice that a lot of the stuff from our previous visits were gone, including the television, the stacks of DVDs, and the girls' books. In fact, the whole house looked like it'd been raided. I guess that Albert moved his illegal operations out of his house after the police got summoned here. While I'm not sure if he's ever gonna come back here, I don't know where he and his goons are hiding out, so I'm gonna have to do more searching. Wednesday. Albert's done it again. Don't ask me how he did it, but he did the same thing to Bailey as he did to Bryce. I'm not sure what his plan is, but I think it involves making the whole school look up to him. Albert Sandy's so dreamy, isn't he? No, he isn't. It wasn't much better at the boys' table, where Bryce and his goons were still singing the virtues of Albert. And then I had an idea. Guys, what's Albert's favorite food? Yogurt. Well, I just hope these guys appreciate the sacrifice they're about to make, because this could end up revealing where Albert's secret hideout is. The only problem was, Albert usually used Dennis's van to nap his victims. We'd need a car to track him down, but none of us had driver's licenses, and I didn't know anyone who'd be willing to drive us. Somehow, Rowley said he knew someone who could drive us. Still, he didn't tell us who it was. So I was very surprised when we discovered who he'd found. Hello! Don't ask me how or why Rowley chose Leland out of all the people, but at least we had a ride. I hadn't seen Leland in at least a year, and Rowley claimed that his parents decided that he was old enough to stay home. Then Leland chimed in and said that apparently Rowley's parents fired him after he let Rowley watch some cartoon they deemed too violent. And apparently, they only found out after Rowley asked for an action figure of one of the characters for his birthday. When will these people realize what a masterpiece JoJo is? Me and Holly ended up having the backseat to ourselves, but I wasn't sure if getting close to her was a good idea, since we were in a car driven by the biggest nerd at Crossland High School. That and Leland checking his rearview mirror every minute didn't help things. After about half an hour, Dennis's van pulled up outside Corny's. I don't know why Albert and his goons wanted to do a family-style restaurant, but I then saw Dennis heading around to the back, which made me wonder if he worked at Corny's. We tried to go in through the front, only to discover that the doors were locked. I found it odd that Corny's was closed on a weekday, until Holly found a piece of paper taped to the door. Notice, this establishment is closed to protect public health and safety. This establishment must be inspected and approved by the Department of Hotels and Restaurants to continue operating as a public lodging or food service establishment. Do not remove this notice. Having seen that, we headed around the back to find a way in, and discovered that Albert and his goons broke the lock on the back door and forgot to replace it. I guess they really didn't think that someone would try to track them down. Unsurprisingly, Albert made no attempt to hide himself. Who's hungry? I love yogurt. Me too. Because Albert was sitting in a booth, we were able to hear everything he said. And from what I heard, his plan involved giving those guys some yogurt. Don't ask me what that has to do with them worshipping him, but I'm pretty sure it's all a trap. For some reason, everything had been left in place after Corny's closed, including the ball pit. And suddenly, I got an idea to ruin Albert's plan. What the? Having knocked over one frozen yogurt, I prepared to do the same to the other one. Unfortunately, Albert seemed to have caught on to this. You really think I'm that dumb, Greg Hey, wait a minute. How the hell'd you get in here? At this point, there was only one thing to do. Run. You're not getting away with this. Wait, who the hell is this guy that they're with? They never mentioned him either. Who is this? In the end, the only person who didn't make it out of Corny's was Leland. Though I blame that on him insisting that he'd run faster if he let his arms flail behind his back. In all the commotion, we somehow managed to forget about Leland. Fortunately, he's a pretty big guy, so I don't think he'll have too much of an issue fending off the goons. Somehow, the whole Corny's incident ended up on the news tonight. This just in. 6 teens taken into police custody following a break-in of Corny's family-style restaurant. While me, Rowley, and Holly didn't appear in the news report, Leland did. I just hope he doesn't admit that it was us who got him in there. Otherwise, we're gonna be in big trouble. Guess who didn't appear in the report? Albert. I don't know if he escaped or something, but he wasn't mentioned at all. So as far as I know, he's still out there, just without his goons. And if anything, I just hope he doesn't got a backup plan. Thursday. I guess I was right, because Albert turned up today. Did you know that carrots can fight cancer? I wasn't thrilled to see him at all, and I decided to get him off my mind by blowing bubbles in chocolate milk. The only problem was, the cafeteria somehow ran out of chocolate milk. Somehow, Rowley managed to get the last chocolate milk carton, and he refused to give it to me in exchange for an entire pack of sour cherry blasters. So I was forced to watch him blow bubbles in it, which I only think he did to annoy me. Sometimes, I wonder if Rowley's learning a little too much from me. After Rowley stopped blowing bubbles, he started acting very strange. So Greg, what do you think of Albert Sandy? He's super gross, don't you already know this? Wait, you don't like Albert? Of course wait a minute. What happened to you? Unfortunately, it only got worse from there. All hail the mighty Albert! I don't know what Albert gave everyone, but it's got to have something to do with the milk. And if anything, I've got to make sure no one else drinks it. Okay, I'll admit, running around the cafeteria while yelling at everyone not to drink their milk wasn't the best idea. Plus Holly was having soda, so it wasn't like I saved her from anything. Despite that, I was able to explain everything to Holly, just as Rowley joined the crowd of kids chanting all hail the mighty Albert over and over again. Actually, I think that last thing managed to convince her that Albert had struck again. Having clarified this, we set out to find a hiding spot. Since neither of us knew what Albert put in the milk, the least we could do was hide and hopefully find a nerd who knew more about science than us. In fact, it wasn't long before we found an empty classroom, so we hid in there. Hey look, it's Mr. Albert Sandy hater himself. As it turns out, study hall was being held in that room, and for some reason, the teacher let the students watch a movie in class. Don't ask me why. To make matters worse, the kids in there were from the previous lunch group. Judging from how they recognized me, they'd already drank the rigged milk. After some run-ins with Albert's mind slaves, we ended up in the library, where we found Alex Aruda. That's when it dawned on me. Alex is the smartest kid in our class, so he must know something about turning milk into a mind control device. Alex claimed that he'd explain how the rigged milk work, but he then started lecturing to us about biplanes and Scandinavian accents and a whole bunch of other stuff that had nothing to do with milk or mind control. The real question is whether or not the accident could have been prevented. Now obviously, speed, how is this even related? Alex, we just want to know what's in that milk. Shut up and stop interrupting me! If that taught me anything, it's that Alex has an extremely short temper. I mean, apart from Dad and Patty Farrell, he's the most easily irritated person I've ever met. So much that after he'd gotten sick of us trying to get him back on topic, he showed us what book he was reading. I don't think you know who you're up against. It took us about a second to recognize that Alex was reading one of those girls' books that Albert seemed so fond of. This could only mean that there was some kind of pact going on between them, and that Alex was supporting Albert's plan. With Alex out, we needed to find someone else who could help us find a cure for the outbreak. Unfortunately, we couldn't get out of the library thanks to what was going on outside. Haters! Thanks to that, we were now trapped in the library, and I thought we were screwed until I noticed Shirag sitting at a table by himself. Are you, Shirag, willing to give up your freedom for the sake of a yogurt fetishist? Shirag was easily roped in, presumably because I told him that if he didn't help us, he'd have to spend the rest of the day, and probably the rest of his life, in the library with Alex Aruda. Still, this was only a minor victory compared to what lay in front of us. For whatever reason, we couldn't find any milk-related books in the library. This left us with an even bigger dilemma, leaving the library without getting attacked by Albert's mob. Luckily, I came up with an idea based on a TV show I'd seen. Holly and Shirag didn't think it'd work, but since we couldn't think of anything else, we stuck with it. Ah, I'm with you. Believe it or not, it worked. Albert's army didn't recognize us, thanks to those poetry anthologies. They ended up going for Alex, which gave us plenty of time to escape. We ended up going to Alex's locker since we thought that was where he kept all of his stuff. As it turns out, Alex had one of those combination locks and it took us about 10 seconds to crack it. I would have expected more from the guy voted most likely to succeed 3 years in a row. But I guess Alex is more book smart than street smart. I thought Alex would have something related to the milk plan in his notebooks, but all we could find was a ton of super complicated math equations. None of us knew what any of this was, but I doubt it had anything to do with the milk. And then, Alex himself arrived. Alex then started dancing around and throwing random punches at us. I'm not sure if he was trying to attack us or show us some dance moves, but it wasn't very effective, and I was able to shove him into his locker with no effort. Let me out of here, you bastard! Only when you tell me what was in that milk. Eventually, Alex gave in and told us that the milk was intended to extract the personality of whoever drank it. I don't know how any of that works, but we ended up freeing him anyways. Though that was mainly because I was tired of holding the locker shut. We raced back to the cafeteria, only to discover that Albert had beaten us. That's it, keep it coming. Albert got everyone to pour out their milk into a pot, which he would then dump into a machine, which turned the milk into frozen yogurt. I wasn't quite sure what he was going to do with this much yogurt until he spoke up. If it isn't Greg Heffley, when I eat this yogurt, I will gain everyone's personalities and become a god. You and your useless friends shall be forced to surrender to the wrath of the mighty Albert Sandy. You can't do this, Albert. And if that wasn't enough, Albert had one last trick up his sleeve. All hail Albert. All hail Albert. Guess what, Holly? I've got one more carton of milk. You know what that means. Sadly, Albert and his minions had Holly completely surrounded, and there was no way for me to get to her. I thought we were doomed, until something completely unexpected happened. How about you have some, fatty? What? No! Okay, I'll admit, that was the most badass thing I've ever seen a girl do. I mean, Albert was super pissed that Holly splattered him with the last of his special milk. He then ordered for his minions to finish her off, but Vice Principal Roy arrived before he could put his plan into action. Mr. Sandy, is there something you would like to tell me? I can explain. Vice Principal Roy got Albert to confess everything he did, from the mind control to his plan to become a golden god. In the end, the teachers were able to gain some control over Albert's army, though they kept muttering all hail Albert for the rest of the day. Friday. I wasn't sure what would happen today, given how chaotic yesterday was. As it turns out, Alex Aruda admitted to being involved in the brainwashing plan and was forced to spend all of last night separating the personality mix thing that Albert turned into frozen yogurt. I never thought I'd end up serving yogurt to people, but then again, who would have thought that Albert would start brainwashing people? Hope this makes you normal again. Speaking of Albert, he got arrested for this. I'm not sure how long he's going to prison for, but I don't think I'm going to see him for a long time. All in all, everything returned to normal once we were finished serving the yogurt. Well, almost everything. Do you have any other copies of Boku no Pico? I don't know what Leland told the troublemakers, but they're now reading those weird Japanese comic books that he likes. I'm not sure if this is a good thing, but at least they're not engaging in illegal activities anymore. Anything else? Well, me and Holly still haven't become a couple, but I've got the whole summer to make it a reality. And besides, with Albert where he belongs, I can finally get him off my mind for good. And there's the end of the revenge of Albert Sandy. Brainwashing the entire school with milk and then turning that milk into frozen yogurt for him to eat. It's not the most insane thing that he could have done considering what he did in the last episode. I don't know what is up with this guy. He's like an evil mastermind. He's a super villain and he's just keen on making Greg Heffley's life terrible. I wonder what happened to Rowley, because the last time we saw him, he had the milk and then he was kind of turning into Albert's goon. And then we never saw him again. Greg doesn't even mention him at all. I mean, hopefully he turned back to normal and he wasn't a mindless minion anymore, but I would have liked to see what Rowley was up to. Now that's going to be the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoy. I will be continuing the Yogurt Extended Universe. These stories are actually really fun to read, so I will definitely be continuing with the next one being A Man of No Words. Let me know in the comments if you are excited for that one. I am going to take a little bit of a break from it. Maybe 2 videos from now, I'll hop into the universe again. But if you have any stories that you want me to read, put it in the comments down below. I will look at it, I will add it to my list, and eventually I will make it. I hope all of you have a phenomenal rest of your day or night whenever you're watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.